Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visiten suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Acara kami menyediakan banyak bahasa. Silakan lihat suprememastertv.com/schedule.
The book A Vegan Ethic argues that if veganism is about doing your best not to harm any sentient life, then we must logically extend that circle of compassion to human animals as well.
A Practical Guide to Animal Activism, books by Mark Hawthorne, Vegan, Part 2 of 2. Continue watching to find out more.
Vegan, the real selfless love.
Every day is a good day to devote our hearts to God. Compassionate viewers, I am Kira. The beautiful people of St. Helena thank heavens for the multitude of blessings bestowed upon us and wish you abundant inspiration and bliss. Welcome to part 2 of the two-part series entitled A Practical Guide to Animal Activism, books by Mark Hawthorne, Vegan. Mark Hawthorne is an American writer and animal people rights advocate whose work on behalf of animal people has appeared in such vegan magazines as Satya, Veg News, Leica, and The Vegan. He is also the author of 4 books on animal people rights, and social justice. Today, we are honored to continue our interview with Mark Hawthorne as he introduces his book, Bleeding Hearts, The Hidden World of Animal Suffering. He voices his thoughts and observations on how the current COVID-19 pandemic is primarily the result of cause and effect directly related to animal people cruelty in raising animal people for food.
Bleeding Hearts, this book here, it took me 5 years to research it and to write it. And it explores the many ways that humans exploit animals, but unlike most books that examine animal cruelty, I make a point to look at forms of exploitation that don't get a lot of attention in the mainstream media. So for example, the book explores animals killed for art, for education, for religion, and for sports. And one of the reasons I took this approach is that after Striking at the Roots was published, I began hearing from activists from around the world telling me how they were using the book to campaign against the various types of exploitation that were taking place in their country. So for example, I was hearing from activists in Costa Rica who were telling me about shark finning. I was hearing from activists in Australia who were telling me about the use of kangaroos for their skins. And it inspired me to devote a whole book to some of these lesser known cruelties. And COVID-19, it does appear that COVID-19 likely got its start from an animal, which makes it another example of infectious diseases that have come from humanity's exploitation of animals. I want to be clear, however, that diseases jumping from animals to humans is never an excuse for racism, as we've seen with COVID-19. In the United States, where I'm from, we would be wise to remember that the influenza outbreak of 1918, which killed something like 50 million people around the world, probably began on a pig farm, here in the US.
It's important to remember that we can't change anything if we don't have the knowledge first. I think of Bleeding Hearts as more of a prequel to Striking at the Roots. The first book, Bleeding Hearts, explaining what the cruelties are, and Striking at the Roots, talking about ways that we can make a difference for animals. I think it's important as advocates that we know what's going on out there. We have to understand the challenges before we can make a change in the world. And so each chapter talks about not only what we can do out there, but I interview advocates who are actually doing it. Thinking about animal cruelty is one thing, but we need to confront that cruelty with action. We need to have tools in our hands that can make a difference. We need to be able to say, this exploitation is terrible, but I'm just going to be frustrated if I'm not able to do something about it. So it's critical as people who love animals that we take action like the types of things I recommend in the book.
In 2016, Mark published A Vegan Ethic Embracing a Life of Compassion Toward All, which also explores the vegan lifestyle's relationship with social justice.
Spending time with animals rescued from the food industry is what finally nudged me from a vegetarian diet to ethical veganism. It also inspired me to write books on animal rights. When I first became vegan, I only considered the non-human animals when I advocated veganism, whether I was giving a public talk or doing one-on-one outreach. But as I came to know and follow the work of vegan activists working on behalf of humans and the planet as well as animals, I began to think critically about what it means to live compassionately. So in addition to covering animal rights and offering insights on going and staying vegan, A Vegan Ethic also explores human rights and the environment and examines how we can nurture our better selves as we strive for social justice.
The book A Vegan Ethic argues that if veganism is about doing your best not to harm any sentient life, then we must logically extend that circle of compassion to human animals as well. It's a practical guide to veganism and to animal rights, along with advice for going and staying vegan, an overview of animal exploitation, and answers to common questions about ethical eating, such as, isn't humane meat a good option, or don't plants feel pain? A Vegan Ethic draws on the work and experiences of activists to examine how really all forms of oppression, including racism and ableism and speciesism, they're all connected. They're connected by privilege, they're connected by economic power, and by recognizing how social justices overlap, we can find strategies for solutions. In other words, working with other social justice groups so that the animal rights movement isn't so narrowly focused. So we call it siloed, so focused on just one issue.
Vegan side effect: losing bad karma too fast.
Benevolent viewers, let's take a moment to pray that all of human society quickly wakes up and adopts the conscientious vegan lifestyle. We'll be right back here on Supreme Master Television. Welcome back to A Practical Guide to Animal Activism, books by Mark Hawthorne, Vegan, Part 2 of 2. In July 2021, Mark Hawthorne launched his new book, The Way of the Rabbit.
I love rabbits. I love how gentle they are, and I love that they're vegan. And shortly after I became an ethical vegan in 2001, I began volunteering with the Rabbit Rescue Group and eventually adopted several rabbits. And they were part of the inspiration for this book. I was researching the book and interviewing biologists and archaeologists and paleontologists and other experts to find out what makes rabbits special. I learned so much I'd never heard of. And surprisingly, as popular as rabbits are, there really aren't very many nonfiction books about them. And the few books that are available emphasize how rabbits are exploited. So I wanted to create a book that celebrates rabbits as individuals. There's nothing in the book about how rabbits are used for fur or for meat or for animal research, and it's a happy book, not a sad book.
Indeed, animal people have many admirable qualities. And as Supreme Master Ching Hai mentioned during an interview with the Irish Dog Journal in 2009, animal people also retain divine gifts which many of us have lost touch with.
The animal people are just equipped with finer faculties and other kinds of intelligence than ours. Or at least they retain this divine gift which we have forgotten or neglected. So yes, Louis, animal people do have souls like us, definitely. If we look into their eyes or observe their loving nature, we can see it. His Holiness Pope Benedict XVI also spoke about our animal people co-inhabitants and said that animal people are given into our care. This reflects the Catholic Catechism, which states that animals are God's creatures. He surrounds them with His providential care. By their mere existence, they bless Him and give Him glory. Thus men owe them kindness. We should recall the gentleness with which saints like St. Francis of Assisi or St. Philip Neri treated animals.
Mark Hawthorne's latest book, Earth Spirit, Eco-Spirituality and Human-Animal Relationships, was just released on June 1st, exploring how our kinship with animal people must be reassessed for the sake of our planet. To conclude today's program, Mark has a few closing messages for our viewers.
Well, one of the things that the recent pandemic has shown us is that the world can heal. We saw how air over cities that were choked by smog could become clear. We saw less noise pollution, even in the ocean, which allowed sea creatures to communicate with one another again. We've seen how humanity can better coexist with nature. So I would say my wish is that we truly learn from these lessons and that they inspire us to do better for the entire planet as the pandemic eventually comes to an end.
Bravo, Mark Hawthorne, for all the splendid work you do to raise awareness of the urgent need to be vegan. With heartfelt gratitude, we pray that such insightful publications as yours help many more people make the transition to the peaceful, eco-friendly vegan lifestyle. Wishing you God's blessings and continued success in your noble endeavors. For more information on Mark Hawthorne's books, please visit markhawthorne.com.
When it comes to having a central nervous system and the ability to feel pain, hunger and thirst, a rat is a pig, is a dog, is a boy. Ingrid Newkirk, vegan.
Amiable viewers, thank you for your gracious presence today. Coming up next is the fascinating benefits of tomatoes, right after noteworthy news, here on Supreme Master Television. May we all be guided by wisdom and compassion for a world blossoming in friendship and beauty.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/UL.